Hello, welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at overdrive pedals. Why do you need overdrive pedals? Which overdrive pedals would be best for your needs? And what's the kind of starting points really to go into if it's your first overdrive pedal? And if you're a seasoned musician, which directions might you want to experiment with? So we've got a whole range here today, and we're going to be looking at some of the cool little features that you can get from a really broad price range. Terminology, one of the things that you'll find, you'll be watching, you might have watched a few videos about overdrive pedals, and there's some great ones out there. People use different things to describe how these things sound. One of the things that they might describe is clipping. Clipping is the way a waveform is treated and the way it saturates and distorts. Some people use the term hard clipping. Hard clipping is is associated with distortion. One of the great hard clipping pedals is a Klon Centaur. So I've got a copy here, which I'll be looking at later on. And typical soft clipping, a little bit more purry, is a Tube Screamer. So we'll have a look at the staples in a minute, but that's one of the things that people use. Other people use the word chewy when they describe the response, and people say the word amp-like. So when they say it's amp-like, it means that the overdrive pedal has a really high set of headroom dynamics. So that difference between just tickling the strings and really belting the strings, you'll get a real difference in the dynamics that come out of it. Some people say that pedals are open sounding and closed sounding or compressed. That's where a pedal you might turn it on and it suddenly feels like it's squashing the sound. If it's compressed, open, again associated with the term amp-like. Another thing that you'll hear is the way the sound is treated. So sometimes pedals have something like a mid hump, they call it, and essentially it's like a hump shape, as we'll associate with camels, for example, but it's within the frequency range. And what happens is some pedals push the mid frequencies to be louder. The reason for that is our ears are more sensitive to it and they pick it up in a band situation. So it's really important just for you to know that, because that sort of terminology will be used throughout the video, and I think it's important because we're all here to learn stuff. So onto the first one. First pedal we're going to look at here is a Klon Centaur copy. Now the real Klon Centaur were all kind of handmade. Initially they were handmade by kind of one guy. There's some really special things about the Klon Centaur, and it's a great little starting point if you wanted to get into overdrive pedals, because it's really useful. So this copy here, there's so many copies. There's a great one called the Soul Food by Electro Harmonics. The Tumnus is another one. This is a very, very cheap one by a company called Mosky, and it's called the Mosky Silver Horse. They also do a golden version, and it has 3 settings. So it's got a gain, an output, and a treble. And basically you're turning or cutting treble, and then the output and the gain. There is a little voice switch on this, which you don't normally get on Klon Centaurs. This changes the voicing between what is typically a slightly different model that they had as they were bringing them out, but essentially they sound very similar. Let's have a little look. So the Klon Centaur is known as a hard clipping overdrive pedal, and what's really cool about the Klon Centaur is it has a lot of clarity to it. It doesn't go mushy or muddy. So this is my guitar today. I'm going to be using the gold top. I'll use some other things as well so you can hear the difference, but this is great. It's got P90s, and P90s are somewhere between, sort of the way they sound, somewhere between your humbuckers and your single coils. So let's just have a little listen. This is just my guitar going through the amp so far. So I've got a... Okay, I'm quite happy with that sound. What I'm using today to make my sound is a UAFX Woodrow pedal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some of the settings on here. So what I've got is I'll just engage it. My main settings here are output and gain. So I'm just going to adjust it so it's the same volume as the guitar, and a lot of the magic with this pedal happens quite high up if you just want distortion. Hear that? It's obviously, because I've got single coils, it will hum. That sounds really cool. So with this pedal, what is it, the magic of the Klon? Why is it so hyped? There's a lot about the scarcity of getting one of these pedals. You know, the pedal this is trying to mimic. What's cool about this is it keeps a clean signal running at the same time, making it sound fuller and bigger. Let's have a look what happens if I adjust the treble. So I'm on the bridge pickup, it's going to be trebly. It's brilliant. Okay, so that would be to use that pedal really to lift everything up and use it as a lead boost. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn that gain down now to about half. If I wanted to, my amp's already, oh, you know, it's on the edge of breaking up when I use it. If I use this, just sounds a bit thicker, doesn't it? It really lays that thickness on and breaks up really nicely. Now, the third trick with this is to use it as a boost. So a lot of people, including myself sometimes, I'll turn the gain down a bit and just put the output up. So if I'm doing a solo, that's great because I can just, and there's it without. It's quite transparent really in terms of the way it sounds and affects your guitar. One of the cool things though is it does have a little bit more mid, which again makes our ears prick up and hear it more. So that's the Klon kind of sound. And like I say, there's loads of, I'm not recommending anybody goes out and buys an actual Klon, you know, for £7,000 or, you know, whatever they're going for. You know, it's 2025, they're going for a lot of money when they, you know, and they're pretty cool. But this is more like, you know, $29 or, you know, £28. And it fulfills the kind of sonic requirements. So I have an affiliate link for these if you're interested. Like many other pedals, the Klon was designed to kind of resolve some of the problems that we have with one of the most staple kind of pedals that a lot of people use. So this one that I'm going to show you is the Ibanez Tube Screamer, and they come in different forms. There it is. Originally designed to make your guitar sound like an overdriven tube amp. So it adds a little bit of nice kind of harmonics. They have the same controls that you get on most overdrive pedals. So you've got a gain, you've got a level, and you've also got your tone, which, you know, on the Klon is a treble, some others it's treble. But really, this is more, it's not transparent. You change the characteristics of the way your guitar sounds when you use one of these. There's a couple of ways you can use these, and I think they're a good pedal. Some people hate on them. We are in a stage with pedal design where there's, you know, we keep them as a classic sound. A lot of people use them in the studio as well to tighten up sounds, because it does take a bit of bass out. It really pushes those mids and it can really tighten up the tone of something. Let me just play my normal sound. Okay. Almost at unity gain there. I like the sound of a tube screamer. So this is a softer clipping overdrive. You know, we talked about clipping earlier. This is a little bit more purry. But it wails, you know. But it does pull your low end together a bit more. Right, some people use them like this. So there I've turned my tube screamer down, turn the gain right down. And then I've turned the tube screamer up to try and be more unity gain. So this So by doing that, what I've done is I've just added some nice kind of frequencies to it, some nice kind of sizzle to the mid-range. One thing I would say is these overdrive pedals will give you a different feel depending on the amp. So the amp that I'm using today is based on a 55 Fender Deluxe. It's the Tweed model. So these amps overdrive really nicely. They kind of have this softness to their overdrive. However, the Fenders that came out in the 60s don't have as much mid-range. They kind of scoop that out and they have a really lovely clean kind of tone to them. These respond differently to those, but they sound great still. But I just thought I'd let you know that. This is using a tube screamer. A lot of people would probably just turn the gain up and use it as a solo boost. So if I've got my normal tone, maxing it out, it's not too crazy. Now to me that's quite a chewy kind of responsive kind of sound. It's quite nice, quite addictive, you know, a little bit of a kind of a crutch tone, you know, a kind of tone that you might lean into and lean on. So that's a Tube Screamer, a great pedal. You can put these together as well. So some people stack their pedals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a Klon, which has the transparency and the openness of an amp. And I'm going to get a Tube Screamer, which has that mid-range thing. And I'm going to experiment with it. And what you'll find is that sometimes when it comes to this sort of thing, the order in which the pedals are stacked makes a difference, but also kind of the way you set it. So here we go. I've got two pedals here. One's hard clipping, one's quite open sounding, one's soft clipping, as we talked about earlier, and it's quite compressed. But when you use them together, put the compression first and then you open it all up, you get this. So and this is a trick that John Mayer, if you know John Mayer, he's done a bit of this. Listen to what happens when I put a Klon in. Okay, that's a bit spicy for my mic inputs. Sounds nice. So by stacking them, I've got quite a thick kind of sound. I could probably clean that up a little bit. One of the things that I always find with overdrive pedals, especially like top tip, is don't have them too overdriven. Always wind it back a little bit. So another one that people absolutely love, including myself, is the blues breaker sound. So this pedal here, this is a King of Tone, it's called. I bought this based on the hype of these. These have had hype for a long time, and I waited forever to get mine. It's like one of those things where it's a great pedal, but probably would have been happy with the Duke of Tone that they make with MXR, or you know, some of the clones that are available by other companies. So the cool thing with this is it's known as a dual pedal. So dual overdrives are my favourite overdrives, because as you've just seen, by stacking two pedals you add an extra level of wonderment to what you're doing. And then it also allows you to kind of have like a rhythm channel and a drive channel and all that. So the great thing about the King of Tone, which is what made me get it, was you could change inside. You've got dip switches. I've done a video on what all the dip switch sounds sound like. If you really want to put yourself through that, you know, there's a link. But the cool thing about this is there is this side here is like overdrive, and then this side here is a boost. So it's quite clean. The whole thing with this pedal is about it just adding gain to your existing guitar tone. It's like Analog Man, who make the company, think, you know, whoever's got one of these quite likes the sound of their guitar and amp already. They don't want to change it too much. And there's a lot of additional kind of magic in these pedals. But one of the things that I found with the blues breaker style pedal is that they do need to be turned up a lot more to get the same kind of sound out. Just a bit on the blues breaker pedal. The blues breaker pedals was a kind of, they brought something new to the table of guitar pedals back in the 90s. They were brought out by a company called Marshall Amps. Marshall Blues Breaker pedal was one of their kind of big hits. It's a great sounding overdrive, very transparent, a very special kind of circuit. Now there are heaps of clones. Marshall still do the Blues Breaker. I've got access to an original one and I really like the sound of it. it made me kind of want to, you know, hearing those made me want to get one of these. This is kind of based on it, but it does its own thing. But essentially, it comes in that category of blues breaker pedals. This is my clean sound. See, by doing that, you notice the volume and the drive is quite high up again, and the tone is kind of in the middle. The drive means gain, means what is it on the Tube Screamer? It's called. It doesn't even have a overdrive. So it's that kind of initial gain sound. So dynamic as well, this pedal. Okay, so that is lovely, and I can adjust that to my heart's content, but I quite like it like that. This side is set to be a transparent sounding kind of boost, so if I just adds more volume really. With this pedal as well, there's internal presence switches as well. So I tend to have quite a few pedals on my board, and I have the presence up because you do tend to lose a little bit of treble. That's really nice, isn't it? So that's just with the clean. It's great if you've got, like, you know, you're doing a gig or you're practicing and you've got, I really like this is my clean sound. Turn this on. Gets to your solo. Just really gives you that extra whilst you're playing. And you can, if you want, change that to be another overdrive to stack together, or a distortion. So blues breaker style is a transparent sound. You can get pedals that are double, so you can, you know, mix and match. There's so much stuff on the market. It's a great time to be a guitar player. I'm going to move on to a different style now. So this is a little bit of a wild card, but this is for people who don't like overdrives. This is a preamp. So it works like an overdrive. Basically, it's this tiny little amp. It's got a transformer in it as well. So when I plug this in, this is based on the Hudson Broadcast, which is basically like a channel strip off a mixing desk. Now when I press this, instantly got sounds like the amp, just thicker. Okay. Instantly loads more thickness and chewiness. So this has the same kind of settings as well. So this has a low cut, so this is how much low is it going to cut out, because when you overdrive, a lot of the low becomes boomy. Now if you're out with a band, that's when it makes a difference, when it starts cutting over the bass player's stuff. The cool thing with this sort of pedal is you can really thicken up your sound, and now it sounds like a fuzz. Or I can just wind the gain down. That sounds really nice. And some people do use overdrive pedals just to condition their tone, just to make their normal, leave it on all the time, their normal sound just have a character that they want. So let's try that. If I turn the gain trim down, so this is it without. So it's clean, but it's just got thickness. Or you could just go mad with it. So that's why it's a very different kind of thing. You can just have it to be your all the time sound, or you could use it to make it raunchier. Essentially, you put in a little amplifier there into the mix. This next one I'm going to show you, it's not the last one. This one is the sort of overdrives that we're starting to see a lot of now on the market. This is a Zendrive copy. So this is called the tie-dye drive, but this is an amp in the box, as it were. So the amp in the box type of overdrives are to sound like an existing kind of amp, and you might be going through a clean amp and this will just have the character of a different style of amp. So I've got a friend who has recently built one that sounds like a Vox. He loves the sound of Voxes. Stephen Blythe, lovely guy. He's built a pedal that basically will transform an amp to sound like a Vox. This one sounds like a Dumble. So if you don't know what a Dumble is, it's a very boutique, expensive amp used by the likes of Carlos Santana, Robin Ford, Larry Carlton used one, John Mayer used one at the moment, Corey Wong. There's all kinds of guys. Joe Bonamassa's a famous Dumble player as well. It's a bit ridiculous because we don't quite know what a Dumble's like up close. You know, if you made a Marshall copy, a Marshall amp in the box, of which there are loads of, you know, you can get a Marshall and you can test it and go, yeah, it does sound like that. With a Dumble, they're quite mystical. So I'm going to turn this on. I love this sound. So this is just everything's in the middle. It has a voice switch. So it's got the normal switches you would normally get with an overdrive. So do we put more gain in? Do we put more tone in? Do we change the level? So we've got volume here. It's already very overdriven. This particular pedal has different voices of the Dumble copy. So, and I think it's just changes the diodes a little bit. So we can hear there's a saturation, there's extra harmonics going on at the top end, and it just sounds huge. Sounds very like West Coast. If I put it on, I think it's this one. It sounds great. It does a thing. This was designed for Robin Ford, the Zendrive pedal. Dumble amps are notoriously sensitive to electrical changes, so if he plays in a venue and the electrics are slightly different, it would affect his amp. Let's listen to that with a single coil guitar. So I've got a Telecaster here. Sounds cool. It's got more sustain. So that is an amp in the box. They use different kind of. They might use op amps, which are operational amps, as they're known as. It's just the way that they work. That's a cool pedal. I use them for a lead boost. I don't tend to use them for anything else, but you can. This pedal, this last one, before I try getting an EQ pedal to sound like one, this pedal is my actual favourite. Now this is made by a company called Brown Amplification. This is it's a pedal that was made to solve problems caused by pedals. So it's an overdrive. It's called the Protein. It's got one side, again, is like a blues breaker style circuit. So it's kind of like the King of Tone, but it sounds huge. Absolutely loads of headroom. All those things that we like about the Klon. This side sounds like the Nobel's ODR1. Very, very famous overdrive. They used to be inexpensive, but now they're expensive type of overdrive. This is good, and I'll tell you why. Because it's got a little bit of an amplifier thing. The idea with this pedal, the concept was, imagine having a pedal that you could tour with, and when you go to a venue and they give you an amp that's not very good, you plug it in and it'll make the amp sound good. And that's where it's coming from, and I kind of think that as well. So this is my clean sound. This is the Protein on the blue side, which is the blues breaker. So it's not clipping like the King of Tone did. Not yet. But it just sounds thick. It has changed the tone. It's not transparent. But listen to... Just to me, that's really pleasing sounding. Now, if I turn the level down just to keep things at kind of... Again, it's gone a bit more overdriven now. I just love the sound of that. So there have been gigs where I've worked with people and I've used that all the time. So because it just adds a thickness to everything in a way that I haven't experienced before. Okay, so the second side is, it's a Noble style kind of thing. So that is it's got loads of let's turn that down. Loads of gain. Loads of sustain. But it's got a really nice It's got a really nice way that it saturates that pedal. It just saturates really nicely. Let me turn the drive all the way up. I mean, there's so much gain. So that does a really nice thing. So imagine it is more compressed. It's less amp-like than the other side. But this is the third channel now. When you combine those two things, it just sounds wonderful. So that's the blue side. Again, not very distorted really. It's great, absolutely great. So with that, you've got three pedals in one. It solves problems, it sounds fantastic, and it just gives you so much out of that little overdrive. And sometimes you have to think, I'm not going to have a board big enough for all of these, or maybe you do, but if I just need to get to the gig and reduce all those options, sometimes it's good to just have two overdrives that you really like that are different, and then you can use them, and they can use them together. And that's where that thing around stacking overdrives has come from. This last one is a Boss GE7 equalizer. I'm only putting this into the video because I've had some people talk about this to me, about it being used as an overdrive pedal. So this adjusts frequencies, that's all it does. But the cool thing with it is you can adjust your level and make the level higher or lower. So let's have a look at that. That clips, doesn't it? I can boost the mid frequencies. Alright, cool. So that might be cooking the preamp a little bit. But there we go. You could probably model some of those with that. The only problem is you haven't got control over your gain and your level. You've just got gain here. So it's a thing to think about. So just to wrap up the video, normally the starting point for most people is a Tube Screamer or a Blues Breaker or a Klon Style overdrive. These are the kind of main food groups that you see cloned all the time. Tube Screamer is great if you want to compress the sound, good for lead boost, soft clipping. It's got a nice bluesy sound. It's probably the best one for your kind of blues stuff. Your Klon Style is probably best for rock stuff, and you can adjust the tone. You can get great blues sounds too, but it breaks up a bit harder and it's really good. Your Blues Breaker sound is really good for stacking, and you'll find that out of my two pedals here that are built into each, that are 2-in-1, I've got a Blues Breaker style on one side, and you can stack Blues Breakers with different things. There's another one called the Tone King. There's a pedal called the Tone King, and it's called the Duelist. And again, the Duelist has like a Tube Screamer and a Blues Breaker together. They stack beautifully. The Blues Breaker is great because it makes a brilliant rhythm kind of sound, especially for rock. Essentially, the idea is to turn your guitar amp into a plexi kind of sound, so it does that really well. Transparency, Blues Breaker again. They're probably the best way to go if you want a transparent sound. And then for a lead boost, I find stuff like this, the Zendrive kind of sound, for me, I like that kind of thick Santana-y kind of tone. But really anything that boosts. So, you know, if you've got tone, if you've got a boost on your pedal, you could use that. My favourite boost, believe it or not, is one of these, an EQ pedal. And I'll just boost the output there. And I can keep my EQ flat, or I can add a little bit of mid-range if I want it to cut through the band. I normally play in bands with quite a few musicians in, and as a result, it's hard for me to be heard. So I push up the mids when I do my solo boost. So those are the key things. Key takeaways are, you know, all overdrives seem to have the same kind of layout. So if you're using an overdrive pedal, you've got your gain, your output, and your tone. If you keep your output to the same volume as your normal clean sound, you've got an extra channel on your amp, really, haven't you? You know, by the way you use that. And then just balance it between your gain and your volume. The tone switch is normally controlling the treble. That's normally what it's doing, unless it says otherwise. In this one, it controls the bass, you know, but it will say. Another takeaway is it's good to have a couple of different overdrives for different tasks. So I have one for a rhythm rock sound, one for a lead boost. And another thing, look out for double ones. These are really good because you've got, you know, that you've got two different sounds and then you can push them together and you've got a third sound. So they literally make a 3 sound in 2. My opinion of the original kind of pedals, you know, these are 40. I got this for £40 second hand. I normally buy pedals second hand. You can't go wrong with a second hand pedal really, unless it's broken. But if you buy it off eBay or somewhere where you can return it if it's broken, then you're fine. They ship really well. You know, if I got sick of this pedal, I could sell it for the same money that I bought it for, put it in a little box, it will get to the destination. I mean, they're designed to travel. They're built like tanks. A couple of other little things to look out for. Jacks mounted at the end are great because they fit on a pedal board better. Side mounted jacks on small pedals are supposed to save space, but they literally make up the same space as a bigger pedal with jacks on the front. So you might as well have something with jacks on the front if you can. Boss pedals are absolutely robust. I've had this one for so long. They don't go wrong. If they do, and you're abroad somewhere, there'll be another Boss pedal somewhere that's the same. You can get them everywhere. They're ubiquitous. You know what you're getting. A lot of professionals use the Boss stuff and they hold their value. You'll get the Boss for the same money that you sell it for. Boutique pedals like this, you end up on a waiting list. They take forever to come. A lot of it is hype. People are asking me to sell it. I don't want to sell it. I don't want to be one of them people, because at the end of the day, like, people are selling these for crazy amounts of money because they don't want to wait, you know, because people don't want to wait the waiting time. But that just makes things worse for everybody. So I'm going to hold on to it. But, you know, it's not really worth the wait in my opinion. I'd have been happy with a clone. Stuff like this. This is a clone of a pedal handmade by a company down the road. It's a good pedal. Does a good job of what I need it to do. It would be nice if at the time I could afford the original one, just because the value would have been the same. I could, you know, they hold the value well. And you can get really cheap stuff like this. So this is made by Mosky. This is £30. I've been using this for 3 years. I tend to keep it on my board all the time. It's just fantastic. I'm really happy with that pedal. I haven't bought the other Klon clones as a result. So, you know, part of me thinks about getting the some of the new clones that have come out. There's a Behringer one. There's a Warm Audio. There's the Walrus, the Tumnus. Sorry, Tumnus is a great pedal. The Soul Food. Somebody offered me a Soul Food at a really cheap price. I thought, I've got this, and this does a great job. So there you go, £30. The amount of times I've used it and enjoyed it, it's an absolute bargain. There you go, overdrives, fun stuff, fun pedals. Always look out for them. change them up, have fun with them. I want to know in the comments what you think. What are your favourite overdrives? Is there an overdrive that you thought was just hype? And is there an overdrive that you just really want? Be good to know in the comments. Thanks for watching. And just remember, this channel is supported by you guys subscribing. The more subscriptions we get, the more things we can do. So please hit that button and see you next time.